Good afternoon. Come on, good afternoon, San Antonio. All right. I'm Dr. George Williams. I'm the Executive Vice President and Chief of Staff right here at Our Lady of the Lake University, right here on the west side of San Antonio. I'd like to welcome all of you to our beautiful and historic campus. And also, I'd like to send a special nod to our sisters of the Congregation of Divine Providence, our founders back in 1895. They have a long and proud history here of providing education rooted in faith, service, and academic excellence. Over the years, we have remained committed to empowering students and making a positive impact on our community and beyond. So thank you, sisters. I know you're out there somewhere for being here this afternoon. One of our core values here at Our Lady of the Lake University is that we believe in the power of coming together, and that's community. Coming together to foster meaningful conversations, shared experiences, and collaborate to create positive change. Today's event is a perfect example of that value in action. We are incredibly grateful to see all of you, so many of you, and folks are still floating through the doors, members of our community here tonight, and also including our former San Antonio Mayor and former U.S. Secretary of Housing and Human Development is here tonight, this afternoon as well. Welcome. And of course, I have to give a special nod to OLLU's favorite alumni here on this campus, and that's Miss Rosie Castro. Thank you so much for being here also. Those of you, all of you, have influential voices here in San Antonio and beyond. Although our president, Dr. Abel Chavez, is unable to join us this afternoon, he does send his warm regards and deep appreciation for your participation in today's event. Thank you all once again for being here. Yeah, let's give up to Dr. Chavez. That's right. Thank you once again for being here this afternoon. Today, together as a community, we can continue to strengthen our collective efforts and to build a better future. And now, I know we're all excited to hear from our esteemed congressman, a tireless advocate for the people of Texas, on the west side included. Please join me in welcoming our Congressman, Joaquin Castro. Good afternoon, everybody. Hello. It's great to be with you. We still have folks that are coming in the door, so I'll speak for a little bit. But isn't it great to have an in-person live town hall here? Thank you, Executive Vice President. Thank you to Dr. Abel Chavez, to everybody at Our Lady of the Lake University. We decided to do this about a week ago because we had a telephone town hall about 2 weeks ago, and at one point on the call, we had 11,000 people who joined the call from our district. And so I thought, and because as y'all know, there are things moving a mile a minute, in fact, even faster. And people are understandably very worried, very frustrated, and very anxious about what's going on. And so we did the telephone town hall, we're doing this in-person town hall, and in a few more weeks we'll do another telephone town hall, all right? Let me a little bit about our district. So I represent the 20th Congressional District. In San Antonio or in Bexar County, we have parts of 5 congressional districts. We have Tony Gonzalez, who's the 23rd district. He covers about 25% of the landmass of Texas. Goes from San Antonio right to the edge of El Paso. So a vast district out in West Texas. We also have Greg Casad, who lives in Austin. He comes down. Greg comes down from Austin into San Antonio. If y'all remember, Lloyd Doggett, also still my colleague, he represented that district before.
Henry Cuellar, who lives in Laredo, he comes up into San Antonio. And then Chip Roy represents the area around the people like today. He lives in the hill country, and he represents the area that comes down into San Antonio and includes, for example, almost Torre, Alamo Heights, a lot of big part of that Broadway corridor in northeast San Antonio. So ours is the only district, the 20th district, that is completely within Bexar County. So we have the main San Antonio district in Congress. And once upon a time, it was represented by the gentleman by the name of Henry B. Gonzalez. And after Henry retired, his son Charlie, who's a good friend of ours, Charlie served for 14 years, and then in January of 2013, after I had served 10 years in the state legislature, I took over for Charlie Gonzalez. And so I am now in my 7th term in the U.S. Congress. I'm proud to represent Washington. Thank you. Just a little bit more. First, I want to describe basically what I have been standing up for years, for San Antonio and for the people I represent. And then talk about some of the challenges that we face today, which I think all of you being here today probably know well, but I think we ought to all get on the same page. And then also, and more importantly perhaps, what I'm doing about them and what we are doing about them in Congress. Okay? And then we'll take some questions. But no, this is also a conversation, so we'll take some questions. But I also want folks to feel free to briefly share their stories. So, for example, it doesn't have to be about this issue, but I'll give you one example. There is a proposal to cut hundreds of millions of dollars to Medicaid, which I will vote against. But there's a proposal to do that. So, folks who are on Medicaid, and that's in our district, that's 100,000 people. So that's a lot of low-income folks. I grew up all over the west side of town. Growing up, we moved around 4 times. There are a lot of folks in our neighborhoods who, without Medicaid, would have no health care coverage at all. So if folks want to tell their personal story about how it would impact them. Or recently, the president said that he wants to cut about 7,000 people from the Social Security Administration. What it would mean if your check is delayed, for example, because every month we help people who are having issues with Social Security and not getting their check, or they're owed some back amount and they've been trying to get it from the administration and they can't get it, and so we intervene and help them get it quicker. All right? So glad to take those questions, but also I hope you hear some comments about how these things are not just numbers and figures on our line item on a budget, but they're real people's lives. They're your lives. They're your family's lives, your friends' lives, your neighbors' lives. And what we do in Congress makes a difference, okay? I also want y'all to know that your voice makes a difference, that your voice matters. Sometimes I often get this question, what can I do to change things? What can I do to make sure people are hearing me? People are hearing you. Your voice matters. When you speak up, whether it's here or you go visit Washington, or you speak up online, or you call a legislator's office, they are aware of what you're saying. They take that into account when they're voting on issues. Now, I won't lie to you, there are billionaires in this country and others who want to have almost complete control over what goes on in Congress. You are the ones that can stop it, and I will help you stop it. All right, so we still have our folks coming in, but let me go over those 2 things really quickly, and then we'll open it up to the floor. When we open it up, we're going to start on the left, and then we're going to go around to each section for folks that have questions. And we have a few microphones, so we should have enough microphones as well. We had about 1,200 RSVPs for our town hall today, so a great turnout from the people of the 20th District. Thank you all so much for taking time out to be here. I got into elective office because I had grown up in a household with my mom and my dad. I think my dad's here as well. He taught in the Edgewood District for 26 years, was a school teacher for 31 years. My mom, of course, my brother's here. I couldn't convince my kids to come because they're 11, 9, and 2. I think they're playing Mario Kart right now. But I got involved because I have been very blessed to grow up on the west side of San Antonio. I went to our public schools. I went to Carvajal Elementary and SAIC, Tafoya Middle School, and then graduated from Jefferson High School. And I believe that if people were given opportunity, if we could build an infrastructure of opportunity for people, great schools and universities, a strong healthcare system so that when people get sick, they can afford to see the doctor, or if they have to go to the hospital, they can do that without getting bankrupted. That if we could create an infrastructure of opportunity that created good jobs for people, so that when they actually put in a hard day's work, they made enough money to support themselves and their family members, and they weren't broke at the end of the month. That if we could do things like that, then these people here in our neighborhoods that have such incredible potential, that they could actually chase their American dreams. That when they said, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a lawyer, or I want to be a nurse, or a firefighter, or whatever it is, that they could actually grow up and do those things. I saw my job, and I still see my job, as building that infrastructure of opportunity for this community that I grew up in, that I care about so much and that I represent today. And over the years, I've had a chance to work on so many issues that I believe do exactly that. But I was going to say recently, but in truth, it's been years coming. But over the last 6 weeks in particular, that has gotten a lot more challenging. Because that fundamental infrastructure of opportunity and the safety net that so many of our senior citizens rely on, for example, is being threatened. It's under attack right now by my Republican colleagues. And now is the time to fight back and to speak up. And let me tell you a little story about, because all of these things are very personal to all of us. Like I said, it's not just line items on a budget. And let me give you one little story about why that matters to me. I grew up in a household where my grandmother was the first in our family to come from Mexico. My grandmother came here in 1922 from Coahuila, Mexico. My grandmother, northern Mexico, some northern Mexico folks. My grandmother never made it past elementary school. She lived around Culebra Road, around Little Flower over there. My grandmother, after she dropped out of elementary school to help work and support her family, she worked most of her childhood and most of her adulthood as a maid, as she used to say, a babysitter, and a cook. And after working literally for decades and decades, my grandmother, at the end of the time that she could no longer work because she was a diabetic, she had no 401k, she never owned a car, she never had a bank account. She used to take her check and cash. All she had after all those years was about a $335 a month Social Security check. And she used to take that check and cash it at the old Centeno that was here on the west side. And she would take it home and she would put it in her red purse, her money. That was her life. She never had a retirement account. All she had was Social Security and Medicare. So if you ask me whether I'll ever vote to cut Social Security or Medicare, I think about my grandmother. There is no goddamn way I'm voting to cut Social Security. And then I think about the recent proposed cuts to the National Institute of Health and what they could mean for research into serious illnesses like cancer and Alzheimer's and dementia and sickle cell and diabetes, and what that means to all of us in this room or people that we care about. And why that matters to me so much, and like I said, all of us have a little bit of a different story, but often a similar story. 2 years ago today, I was discharged from MD Anderson Hospital in Houston because shortly before that, I had been diagnosed with something called neuroendocrine cancer. And I needed surgery, and in 2023, in late February of 2023, I had surgery at MD Anderson to remove different cancerous parts of my body. And I had to stay at MD Anderson for 10 days. And while I was there, those of you that have had surgery, that was the first time I'd ever been hospitalized. I consider myself fairly healthy up to that point, although looking back, there were some warning signs that I attributed to stress and, and diabetes runs in my family. And if you're Hispanic in this town, you're always worried about diabetes, right? Like that's the big thing that you're kind of paying attention to. And so that's what I was thinking, man, I gotta watch what I eat, you know, I gotta shed a few pounds, whatever. And then I was in Spain on a work trip, and I got into a car wreck. I was a passenger in the car, and they took me to the hospital, and they gave me something I'd never had before because I'd never been hospitalized. It was an IV with contrast, where they put the contrast in you, and it shows them what's going on in your body. And the doctor came over, they were gonna discharge me, and they were gonna take the IV out, and then the doctor came back, and you know, she said, my radiologist called over to me, and he said that he believes he sees 2 tumors that have moved from your small intestine into your liver. So she was telling me that I had cancer. And I started getting treatment here at the Health Science Center for a treatment of drugs that I have to get every month. And the list price on that drug, of a drug called lanreotide, was $24,000 per shot. And you know, insurance companies, they negotiate down with providers. And so instead of paying them $24,000, every time I get that shot, I think they pay them about $6,500 or $7,000 per shot every 28 days. So to me, if somebody doesn't have Medicaid or they don't have Medicare, they're not getting that shot. They're not going to be able to live their life. They're not getting the treatment they need. So again, there's no way in hell I'm voting to take people off the medication that they need to survive. But I also, y'all, look, you know, our district is mostly a Democratic district because the majority party, Republicans in Austin, drew it that way. But it's not all Democrat. There are Republicans in our district. And things like cancer and diabetes and other illnesses don't just affect Democrats. They don't just affect people who are liberal, okay? And one way I know that is that, you know, like I said, after you do your surgery, they have you walk around. And so I had my surgery, and I'm walking around this little circular thing with all the rooms. At MD Anderson, apparently, they put people in similar areas that have kind of similar surgeries. So I'm walking around, and they tell you to relax and try to not be stressed out, and, which is tough, right, on its own. I walk around, and I'm, you know, you got that thing that connects you to the thing, and you're like walking like slowly, you know, like kind of. And I passed 2 rooms in a row, and the people are watching Fox News. And I thought, wait, I thought they told us to relax. So what are y'all doing? But it was a reminder to me that it's not just about Democrats or Republicans or libertarians or anybody else. Medicaid saves Republican lives, okay? Medicare saves Republican lives too. Social Security saves Republican lives too. There's no reason my Republican colleagues should be voting for any of these cuts, which are going to hurt the people in their districts and would hurt the people of San Antonio. So I'm not going to vote for them. We also have a big federal workforce here. The president has tried to fire a lot of federal workers. So we can talk about that as well. Now in the Department of Education, the Social Security, he's trying to lay off 80,000 people at the VA. You know, my philosophy on that is that we ought to stand up for our veterans in the same way they stood up for us. So they don't have to do that. We're known as Military City, USA. There are a lot of veterans. Will veterans please stand up if you're a veteran? Thank you so much for your service. Thank you. They're trying to slash the Department of Education. Again, 7,000 people from the Social Security Administration. So we can talk about those things because I know they're of great concern as well. With that, y'all, I've talked a good bit, and I think everybody's in now, it looks like. And so I will open it up for questions, and also I hope folks, if y'all have a story, if you want to share a story briefly, out of respect for everyone, I want to try to keep it short because I'm sure a lot of people will have comments and questions. But feel free to share your story as well. All right, let's start off on the left over here. This will be the middle, right? More or less left over here, then the middle, and then the right. So we'll take a question from the left. My staff is out there, and let me do one thing before I start because they work so incredibly hard. Let me acknowledge my staff real quick. They were incredible. Also, I forgot the security officers from Orlando Lake, the Beartown Syria, SAPD, also coordinating the Capitol Police. Thank you all. So you know who's taking the questions and everything, and then I'll go to our first one. Ben Thomas is here. He's my chief of staff. He's a San Antonian. Roseanne Maldonado, our district director, is here. A longtime San Antonian that worked for Charlie Gonzalez, actually, and is originally from the Rio Grande Valley in Brownsville. Geneva Fuentes, our communications director. Carla Rangel, who's our press secretary, and I think originally a Houstonian, I would say. Israel Buabata, who's a San Antonian, who's here with us. Celeste Acevedo, who works in D.C. and is from El Paso originally. Emily Talagua Chavez, our constituent services rep, a San Antonian. Diago Ferrari from San Antonio. In our district office, Alexa Machata. Ray Salinas, also here, who I think Ray is originally from Victoria, I might say. Jasmine Rodriguez Ramos from San Antonio, our outreach director. And then our interns. We try to take interns every year in both our district office and the Capitol office. Trinity Irwin and Lindsay Sines. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for your hard work. All right. Oh, the microphone there? I think they're controlling it from up here. We'll make sure it's on. You want to test it?
Check.
Yeah.
1, 2. All right. Thank you, Congressman, for your time.
Yeah.
My name is Cesario Garcia. I've been in San Antonio for almost 30 years. I'm an Air Force brat. So thank you all, gentlemen, for your service. My father served 10 years as an Air Force captain, then got out and became civil service. My first concerns, and I'm going to get some booze, I'm sorry. But one of the things that we have is we have generational debt in this country, right? The whole country is 36 trillion in debt. My question to you, sir, is that I would champion you as a representative if you brought a bill to the floor, talking about how we're going to help champion, get rid of our debt when it comes to the whole country, right? You're representing us here in District 20.
Yeah.
But the other thing I would say is that, we talk about billionaires, but there's billionaires on both sides that benefit from tax cuts, right? And it trickles down towards us. We need more money.
Well, I disagree that it trickles down like that. But
well,
yeah.
I'm talking about billionaires. So we have tax cuts.
Republicans and billionaires and Democrats.
Exactly. So my thing basically is this, is that if we have such a disparagement when it comes to how people receive people that receive money on the back end and on the front end, because we have some of us have 401ks and stuff like that.
Right.
They've been under assault by both sides of the aisle. My thing is that if we're going to champion you as our congressman, I would ask that you please go ahead and bring something that's going to benefit both sides of the aisle, not just. And I'm not saying it's one-sided, but we all lean on one side or the other. That's just the way it is. My thing is that if we're going to help bring down our debt, bring a bill to the floor to help bring that debt down, but also we have a lot of waste that needs to be getting rid of. We need to get rid of from our government, a lot of waste. And as my father was in the Air Force and was a civil servant at a couple different installations in Germany and in Vodafone Air Spain, we have a lot of things that need to be cut out. I mean, we got rid of a lot of Air Force bases. We got Reese Air Force Base, we got rid of that. We got rid of Torrejon there in Spain. My question to all of y'all is that if we're going to hold one side of the aisle accountable, then we equally have to look at our own selves and hold our side of the aisle accountable as well when it comes to how we support our congressman and our president. We have to look at both ways. We can't just keep pointing and look at one person and say, you're the bad guy because you're this or that. I expect the booze. No worries. I have nothing against you, y'all. Someone is San Antonio.
I got the
We
question.
have issues on both sides of the aisle. So, thank you for your time.
Well, first I want to say thank you so much for your service to the country. We very much appreciate it. That's the spirit of this town every year. And I agree. I mean, look, I think we should always be mindful of any kind of waste in government, just like you would in a business or anything else. But one of the ways that you make sure that you can pay your debts and that you can also afford to pay for things like Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and Pell Grants and other things is that you retain money, right? And so you don't give a huge tax cut to the wealthiest corporations and the wealthiest people. That just doesn't make sense to me. And by the way, over the years, I mean, I think there were some Democrats that voted for that policy also. I disagree with them as well, all right? Mostly Republicans, but some Democrats have voted for it, I'm sure. I disagree with them. So I don't think that it's necessarily about party, about Republican or Democrat. It's about a philosophy about what's best for the country. And also, if you look at the district that we represent, I believe that I'm standing up for the people I represent. Look, I don't represent Martha's Vineyard, okay? I don't represent the Hamptons. I don't represent, folks who are, who don't worry about getting their Social Security check every month. In these neighborhoods, in this district, people very much are concerned about those things. People right now, we get calls, they're getting nervous, they're watching to see whether their Social Security check is being deposited in their bank account, right? But your point about making sure that we're not wasteful, I absolutely agree with. In the 1990s, President Clinton actually set up a deliberative, thoughtful process about how you would go about doing that. Here, unfortunately, it's been reckless. It's been chaotic. To me, it's been like, well, first of all, nobody voted for Elon Musk for anything. Right? I disagree with the president giving this gentleman so much power when nobody voted for him. The Senate didn't confirm him for anything. And he's still got a lot of big contracts with the federal government. They're not a conflict of interest. But I'll be glad to talk some more also. We had, like I said, we had a lot of people on our telephone town hall. We followed up with each person who had a question or a comment. So if you still have a question or a comment afterwards, we'll be glad to follow up with you after this one as well. All right? We'll move to the center here now for somebody that's got a question. Also want to acknowledge our councilwoman, Melissa Hager from District 6 is here. District 9 Councilman John Courage. Councilman. Yes.
Hi. I'm Terrence. I'm going to make this brief, I promise. I was born at 26 weeks old, and I'm a software engineer now. I never thought I would have that life. I was born in a small town of 60,000 people in the middle of nowhere, Louisiana, and Medicaid made that possible. My whole life is possible because of Medicaid. And I'm actually on the Ticket to Work program, which was passed in 1990 by a Republican. Because back then, the Republicans believed that people like me should have a shot. And I got a successful career. Because the government thought that they should give me a little bit of help to make it. And there are people out there like me. And I just want to know what happened. How did we get here? Given the last gentleman's comments, I'm a software engineer that works in the insurance space. If you want to sit down and talk about how to really fix Medicare and Medicaid, call me anytime. I have 1,000 ideas for what we could really meaningfully do to fix it without hurting people, because I've been on it for a decade.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing the story. And when I spoke about the potential of people, that's one example. If how there's an infrastructure that you put together of opportunity for people, they will be there to take advantage of it. and they can chase their American dreams, and that it will make a difference in people's lives. I fundamentally believe that. And I agree with you. I agree also. We should take an honest look at what abuse there is or waste or fraud, but we have to do it in a thoughtful way. To me, the way it's being done right now is if you're in your closet, you go into your closet and every once in a while we mean to clean out our closet, you go in there and you just start throwing everything out. You're not looking at what you're doing, you're just throwing it out. And then you realize that it's 20 degrees outside and you throw out your winter coat, right? That's what's going on right now, is a kind of recklessness without regard, except those people that I'm talking about, they're not items of clothing, they're people's lives, people's careers, and they're programs that can mean life or death for somebody. So thank you for sharing your story. We'll move over here to this side. I don't know where my staff is with the microphone here.
Hello, sir. My name is John Russell. I think I mentioned once on Halloween, you showed up with your kids, my front door.
All right.
It couldn't be your
I'm trying to figure out, it's harder to see from the stage where you are. Okay. Here we are.
Okay, I hate to say this, but you can't do it all by yourself.
I agree with you, sir.
There's a lot of people in this room that are willing to help out with anything you need. Why don't you
Thank you.
help?
Okay, sure.
Just ask for help.
No. Well, you're right. First, if we're going to change the course of this country, it's not a solo effort. It's an ensemble effort that's going to take everybody. All right? And I will stand up in Congress and fight back. I will fight back for San Antonio and the people I represent, the people I grew up around, the people I live around, the people that I'm proud of. But really, it's going to take everybody's voice. And I don't want you all to ever think that you're just yelling into a black hole that doesn't matter. Your voice actually does make a difference. Your outreach makes a difference, okay? And while we're on that subject, I know folks have been talking about, and remember, a lot of this was all orchestrated in what's called Project 2025, all right? And it was meant to overwhelm the American people with what I consider a lot of bad stuff, all right? And that's what we are. We're in the middle of it now. That's what's going on, right? And so there are a few things that made this possible, aside from the policy that's being pursued and so forth. When the Supreme Court ruled that Donald Trump would not face any kind of criminal penalty or be penalized for official acts, it opened the door for him, I believe, somebody that's acting in bad faith, to then abuse the system, right? So let me break this down really quick. There are two different things going on, at least two. There are the executive orders and actions, and people ask the question, okay, what are you doing to stop that? For those of you that, if you agree with them, okay, then we have a disagreement there. But for the folks that disagree with them, most of them, right, or almost all of them, then I want to tell you what's going on, what I'm doing and what the Congress is doing and what Democrats are doing. So the executive actions and executive orders, those are things that are issued by a president. And those are meant to go around the Congress. So we're not taking a vote on any of those things in the Congress, right? Republicans have the presidency, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. So then you ask the question, okay, well then what do you do about these executive orders and actions? How are you going to block them? We are supporting very actively on a daily basis. There are now more than 109 lawsuits based on the executive orders and actions, right? So we are supporting litigation in the courts to block those executive orders and actions. And for those of you that got a handout, we were handing out a sheet. We put down, it's right here. We put down, for example, some of the most frequently ones that are asked about. So in this grid here, you can see which ones are blocked for now, which ones are partially blocked, which ones are awaiting a decision, and which ones have been upheld by the president. So let me give you just a quick example on each one, all right? So you saw right away that the president wanted to block or stop birthright citizenship. It's in the Constitution that if you're born on U.S. soil, you are an American citizen, right? Nonetheless, President Trump wanted to ignore that and issued an action to try to thwart that. Well, the courts, for now, right, because the legal process, those of you that are attorneys, you know that the legal process has many different stages and twists and turns and so forth. That is blocked for now, okay? Let me give you an example of one where the president has more opportunity to be successful, which is not some...
Before Melania became a U.S. citizen.
That's true, yeah, no, she was here on, I
He's
think...
gotta go first if anybody else has to go.
I'll let you call that into the White House hotline later. Let me give you an example, let me give this example because I know it applies to a lot of folks in San Antonio. Federal employees who are on probation, okay? Some federal employees who work in the Social Security Administration, Department of Defense, Department of Education, any number of them. Everybody knows when you get a new job, you're usually on a probationary period. For a lot of people, that probationary period is around 6 months, right? 9 months maybe. Some people are on there for a year. In the federal government, there are some probationary periods for jobs that go up to 2 years, right? Those folks that are on probation have less rights than folks who have already made it past probation. Now, so he's trying to, in many departments, take out, or Elon Musk and Doge are trying to fire a lot of those probationary employees. That honestly, there's going to be a legal fight over it, but he's got a better chance of doing that than on birthright citizenship. Now, the very strange and I think unfair thing about this probationary period is that even for those folks who aren't new employees, so for example, if you were working as a civilian at the Department of Defense and you've been there 10 years and you just got a promotion to be manager, if you get a new job, okay, a promotion, you are now on a new probationary period. To me, that's deeply unfair. And I think we ought to change the law so that people are protected when they get that promotion, right? So, and then one quick one on legislation, and then I'll take the next question, all right? So those are executive actions and orders. A lot of that fight is being done in the courts. The second part is on actual legislation, right? So when you talk about cuts, when folks talk about cuts to Medicaid, or they want to cut Medicare, they want to cut Social Security, whatever it may be. And remember, they're trying to cut these things. Take Medicare, for example. They're trying to cut Medicare, a program that benefits poor people, low-income people, people with disabilities, senior citizens who are going to nursing homes. Take that money, the money that they're slashing, and give it in the form of huge tax cuts to billionaires and elite corporations who just got a tax cut about 5 or 6 years ago. Y'all remember, they got a huge tax cut about 6 or 7 years ago, okay? So that's what's going on. So you ask me, what am I doing about that? I am voting no on all of your legislation to stop them from doing that. And because in the House of Representatives, the numbers, the split between Republicans and Democrats is very slim, they need to get almost every single Republican member of the House of Representatives to support, whether it's a continuing resolution or a full budget, they need to get all that support in order to pass those things, all right? So that's when I say your voice matters, when you're speaking up to some of the Republican representatives. They have to be, honestly, they have to be more concerned about what their constituents need and what their constituents, how hurt they would be by losing these programs than they are about somebody funding an opponent in their primaries, okay? This is an official event, so I can't get into all the electoral politics and all that, but that's one of the things, is that they have to hear from people, not just big donors, all right? All right, y'all, we'll take the next one. When we come around to decide, we'll get you next, all right? I think we're back to the left over here.
Yes. Hi, my name is Kendall. My father's name was Arthur Darian Jr. Arthur Lee Darian Jr. He served in the Air Force for 26 years, 1959 to 1984. I was in the Army myself 1984 to 1987. Now, I never thought of the day when my dad and his men were 4 warriors. I never saw my day where I'd see a president bow down to a foreign dictator, and when our people had guts to give I say loyalty to the Constitution of the United States of America, and I know a lot of men did the same thing. I never thought my dad would be rolling in the grave right now.
It has been amazing to watch Donald Trump and how close he's gotten to Vladimir Putin. And whatever the reasons are, he's helping Russia. Okay? Now let me say, people ask me the question, which I don't have an answer to. I don't have a clear answer to. Does Russia have something on him, or why is he doing this? I don't have a clear answer to that. But I know that whatever his reason for doing it, whatever reason he's doing it, he is getting closer to Vladimir Putin, who invaded Ukraine. Right? And the fact that the president can't be clear about that and honest about that is a kind of tell. It is a kind of tell that he's siding with Russia over freedom and democracy and a longtime ally, right? And so we will keep pushing back on that. But I am concerned. I'll tell you, under President Trump's leadership right now, the world is turning against the United States of America. He has picked a fight with our biggest allies, with our three biggest trading partners, Canada, Mexico, and China. He's putting the bigger tariffs on them recklessly, right? There are a lot of issues that we have and concerns that we have with China, but getting into a reckless trade war is not going to help us either. He's also picked on Panama, and then made an issue out of Greenland, right? And so what you see is basically somebody who is alienating the world from the United States right now. And the problem is that the consequences will last well beyond Donald Trump's presidency. We will pay this price well beyond Donald Trump's presidency. And I'll be honest with y'all, there have been stories about how countries are coming together to basically now gang up on the United States in different ways. That is what's going to happen, all right? And I said this, I don't know, in the last 2 years at some point, that eventually, those of you that served overseas, some of you served, I had a cousin that served in Germany on one of the bases there. We have bases in Japan and different parts of the world because we have strong alliances. And our soldiers over the years have gone abroad to try to keep peace and to support our allies. I believe that if we continue at this pace, and with the president doing what he's doing, some of those countries are going to start asking us to get the hell out. Right? Because of the policies that this president is pursuing. All right? Okay, we'll go here to the middle, and then when we come here, or we can go here. All right.
First of all, I want to thank you, Congressman Joshua, for coming and caring, and you're a very loving person, and you care, and you're doing your job because you're very concerned for the American people. My question I have to you is, there's a lot going on, and I agree with every single thing that you said, so I don't need to address that again. I have 2 concerns, but many more, but this is what I feel and I believe, okay? I'm gonna start with the second and then go to the first. Yet, Trump lies and lies and lies, and we've all heard it. I'll give a few. He said that Russia was not the one that started the war, which was a lie. Okay? Now, here Trump comes over and over, and he tells the American people, oh, he's going to cut fraud and waste. How can that be if the American people, every time there is fraud, don't they arrest them? Wouldn't it be shown on TV, or am I wrong?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good question. I'll answer.
Okay. And then, he talks about fraud. Well, he's the one that's been indicted and been convicted all his time, and he gets away with everything. He tells the American people he's going to day one be a dictator, and he's doing it. He said day one he was going to bring down the economy. He's not, okay? And so here are all the people hurting. We're not to be a country that is to stand in fear, worrying about we're going to get cut from here and here and here and all this every single day. He is causing chaos. What about all these people that are losing their job? They can't go to unemployment because they're not getting the documents. And so here is my concern that I believe everything. I am a Christian, and I believe a lot of people are. But we're supposed to obey the Constitution. Not threatening people to come wrong. We have a House of Representatives, and we have Congress. He is supposed to go before he makes these decisions. Let the House of Representatives make that vote, then let it go to Congress, then it be signed. Who gives him the right just to do and slash jobs and do whatever he wants, and especially with Elon Musk? What can the people of America do to help you and to help the American people to stop him, because he's violating the law, and have him impeached before he corrupts our nation?
Thank you. Those are all valid concerns and good points. President Trump, he promised a better economy. He promised lower prices, and the prices are going up. He has levied these tariffs recklessly, and now he keeps changing the dates for when they stop and when they start, and it's chaotic. He's put somebody in there in Doge, in Elon Musk, who I don't think cares about people's lives. I don't think he cares about people's lives. I don't think he's not behaving in a way that suggests that he has any understanding about how regular people live. Okay? And I want to read you a few examples of the ridiculousness and the chaos that this created. Okay? So there has been this effort. There's been this effort to recklessly just start firing people and throwing people out of their work. One of those examples, and the most egregious one that I saw, at least that I remember in the last few weeks, was that they fired people who design, build, and monitor nuclear weapons and the nuclear stockpile. Okay? And then they had to go rehire them. They had to go chase them and find them and rehire them when they realized what they were doing. All right? They also have been attacking DEI. They've been attacking Latinos, African Americans, women, the LGBTQ community, and so many others. But I'll tell you how ridiculous this has gotten. Y'all know they removed images of the Enola Gay plane from DoD websites. The Enola Gay from World War II that dropped the bomb. Because it had the word gay in it, they thought that it had something to do with the LGBTQ community, and they want to get rid of it. I mean, let me tell y'all, that's fucking dumb. Okay? It's fucking dumb. There have also been, while on this topic, there have also been, I think, more hurtful things. For example, at the Air Force, man, there have been people from every community in this country, including ours, obviously, but in the African American community, districts that are heavily African American, Asian American, everybody has spilled blood for this country. They have gone to war for this country. They have put their bodies on the line and gone and fought for this country and for our allies in different campaigns and theaters throughout the history of our country. And so the Air Force over the years and other branches, I think of San Antonio, we actually have all the branches represented here, but I kind of think of it as an Air Force town, right? because we had all the Air Force bases and so forth, but in reality, we've got all the campuses. The Air Force was forced to remove curriculum that they were teaching in Airmen about the Tuskegee Airmen. The Tuskegee Airmen, this group of African American heroes who fought for the country, and they had to remove that. But all of this attack, on diversity and diverse people, I can't also just help but think of the message that it's sending to the young kids in our community, because they're getting to a point where they're pressing this idea where if you have black skin or brown skin or you're a woman, that you're just outright unqualified. It doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter like where you went to college or you got a degree in brain surgery or electrical engineering. That if you're a woman or you're a minority, that you're just unqualified per se. That's where this is all headed. And it's not just going to be a problem for federal people that work in the federal workforce. It's going to be a problem for when you go apply for a job, if you fit one of those categories, you apply for a job in the private sector, those companies are going to be worried, am I going to get sued because I'm hiring a woman instead of a guy? Or am I going to get sued because I'm hiring a Hispanic instead of somebody else? Right? That's right, I'm hiring Hispanic instead of somebody that's white, right? I mean, that's where it's headed, quite honestly. I mean, that is a very bad place for us to be in American society. And I also think about the young kids growing up in school, the future of this country, and what they're taking from that as they hear all of this rhetoric and debate. All right? Let's take the next question, y'all. I'll go with here we are.
Hi, my name is Sadie Sanchez, and I recently just came from the Military Service Academy Day that y'all have hosted.
Yes.
And I was just wondering my mom is a public school teacher, and I was wondering what y'all were going to be doing about the massive debts in the school and the education.
What was that?
The massive debts that are accumulating in the school districts.
The massive debt. I'll expound on your question a little bit, so I know which piece of it you're talking about.
So typically, my mom is like paying for pencils, school supplies.
Oh, for the teachers, yeah.
For all of the teachers, and it's all coming out of her pocket.
Yeah.
And not to mention that she had just recently paid for my ACL surgery twice, and she's now she's working 2 jobs, and my dad's working 2 jobs, so we're all kind of struggling.
Yeah. Well, first, thank you for coming by earlier. We had an information session, just like we do every year, for San Antonians in our district that want to go on and serve in the military academies, whether it's West Point or the Air Force Academy, the Naval Academy in Annapolis. So thank you and best of luck on it. Our teachers are heroes. My dad was a teacher for 31 years. Both when I was in the legislature and as I served in the federal Congress, I supported legislation to help reimburse them and make it easier, because what ends up happening is a lot of teachers, they love and they care for their students so much that they're paying for extra things that their kids need, that the students need. And that adds up over time, over the 9 months of the school year, right? And so we ought to do a better job as a country of supporting them in that. They shouldn't have to be paying stuff out of pocket. Now, I'll tell you, part of the challenge, you got 2 things going on, both on the state level and the federal level, is the president is recklessly trying, I believe illegally, trying to shut down the Department of Education. If it happens, it would not only hurt teachers and things like teacher training, but also would lead to lack of support for students with disabilities, for example, right? So I see, y'all, the scenario that we have to speak up against, that we have to guard against, that I would certainly vote against, is this Texas 2-punch, where Greg Abbott passes the voucher bill, right? When he passed that voucher bill, because it will, despite the rhetoric, and it used to be that both Democrats and Republicans voted against it because it would siphon a lot of money from public schools. And also, it's supposed to be a $10,000 savings account essentially. But if you're here, somebody that lives off of 24th Street or Culebra or John McMullen or Bandera or wherever it is, you know, if there's a private school that costs $20,000 and they're gonna afford you 10, the state, the chances are you still can't make up that $10,000. Plus, the private school doesn't have to take you or your kid, right? And then the second part of that punch that's going to hurt teachers and everyone else is the state doing the voucher thing, which would gut public schools, and then President Trump, who would gut public schools and public education by stripping away the Department of Education. You're talking about, from the state and the federal government, the loss of billions and billions of dollars if that happens. I will stand up against it. I will vote against it. I hope that you all will as well. Stand up against it. All right. Let me go to Miguel. Let's get Miguel. There you go.
Thank you for hosting this conversation. And you know, as an individual with a disability, I've been keeping up with everything, and you know, for me, the big concern is the Medicaid funding, the cutbacks on the Medicaid, and how that will affect individuals such as myself. I have to go to, you know, several doctor's appointments. I have to get my wheelchair fixed. I have my medications on a regular basis. And my concern is if they start cutting back on these fundings, what's going to happen to the community, the disabled community? How are we going to be able to fight for what we need? And I myself am a senior at A&M San Antonio. I want to be an advocate for people with disabilities. So I go through the avenues to fight, but there are many others out there that don't know where to turn and what to do. So I want to ask you, what can we do to help and to fight for that?
These issues, like the Medicaid issue in particular, in our hometown and around the country, has really instilled a lot of fear in people. Because the disabled community, for example, is one of the communities that absolutely relies on Medicaid. And when I say that part of the problem with Elon Musk and the 19 and 20-year-olds that he has cutting everybody's services and firing people, they don't understand the lives of real people and regular people. This is what I'm talking about. They don't understand what they're doing, and they're doing it carelessly. And to answer your question, this next week, next Friday is a deadline, is one budget deadline, and we need to speak up now. We need 3 Republicans to join us in voting against any of these cuts. Okay? You need 3 Republicans. All right? I'll be honest with you. If we were here even a year ago, I could stand here and tell you with pretty good confidence that there are at least 3 Republicans who would vote no on these massive cuts. Y'all, I don't know that I can tell you with confidence right now that there are 3 that they can't get the votes they need, which is where you come in. That's why your advocacy matters. That's why I said it's an ensemble effort. I will do my part. I will vote against it. I will speak up. I will press them. I will spread the word in interviews and publicly. But I need everybody to share their stories. Share their stories with your family, with your friends, with your elected officials, your legislators, everybody, about how this would personally impact you and your family and people you know. That's why I started with a few stories about my family. Okay? Post them online, right? A lot of what we do, and I understand, but a lot of what we do is kind of get angry at people and you know, and criticize them online and sometimes call them names and all that. During this time, y'all, what I want you to do is to share your stories with them and how it would impact you and why it matters so much. Believe me, as somebody who now in my 23rd year of public service, 10 in the state legislature and now in my 13th, I have a pretty good mind now about what gets to people and what moves people in these positions. And I'm telling you, when you ask me, what can you do? Share your stories with them. Let them know you're gonna hold them accountable, but tell them why it matters. Let them know that you're a real person, that this isn't just like, you know, a Doge committee that's just having fun. You see pictures of these guys raiding the agencies, taking these selfies, smiling, while they're laying people off, right? I mean, that's sick. It's sick, right? No understanding of what they're doing to people. So that's how y'all can be helpful, okay? We'll go here and then I'll come back to Mary when we come back around. The middle here? Oh, there we are, okay.
Hello, my name is Laura Collier. I was born in San Antonio, raised down in Portland, Texas. This is my husband, John David Collier. You've met him. He brags about having your photo on his desk at work.
Even my wife doesn't have my photo on her desk. Thank you.
We are the parents of a trans adult, and the trans community is terrified. The trans community is terrified right now. Ted Cruz was able to do those commercials during the election. None of that is true. There's only one trans individual that has accosted another person in the bathroom, and that was in a high school, which that happens. The big problem is that molestations do happen in churches. And yet it's the churches that are trying to tell us our children are wrong, or I know this is throwing a lot on you, because I don't know if you have to think about this in your own life. But my daughter has autism, and I spent her whole childhood telling her she is a blessing to cherish and not a problem to fix. And I tell her that now. She is not a problem to fix. Because she's moving to a sanctuary city. We're losing our son also because he's moving to New York. They both want out of Texas. And I don't blame them, because as a woman who was here in the 80s and early 90s, I wanted out of here too really badly. It was toxic, and my mother was a single mom working, and a lot of sexual harassment in the city, a lot of treating women like trash, which still goes on today, which was mind-blowing for me. But I would really appreciate it if you would discuss this issue and these lies about the trans community.
Absolutely. It's good to see you all again. And also, you know, want to wish you well to you and your family and your kids. And let me tell you, one of the first things I did when the president's term started, and that I've been doing ever since. I reached out to the school districts that fall within the 20th congressional district, my congressional district, and I called them and I asked them what they were doing to protect vulnerable people, to make sure that they stop any kind of bullying that folks may be experiencing. That is particularly true with the LGBTQ community and also with the immigrant community, because both communities have been demonized, unfortunately, you know, at many points in history, but especially now. So first, I'm trying to positively affect the climate here in San Antonio. I can't control every part of the country or even every part of the state, but I will do everything I can to be influential in this district that we live in this city that we live in. And also standing up against the hate. What we see, you know, what we see, unfortunately, are politicians who have decided that they are going to make a few different communities targets. And they're going to use those communities to scare people. They're going to scare them that these folks are going to attack them in bathrooms. They're going to scare them that this person is going to convince their child to transition to another gender, and they don't want that. They try to scare them that that immigrants are going to endanger all of them, every single person, and that all those people are bad. And so we have to speak up against that. We have to fight back against that. I have done that in Congress. I hope that y'all will as well. And honestly, you know, I think about all of the issues that we're facing, right? All the issues that we talked about and that we're facing today. And yet, you know, I didn't want to be I didn't want to be too partisan in a way that's just, you know, when I talk about something, I don't want to use Republican as a buzzword, okay? As though that's the answer to everything. Oh, well, they're Republicans. Oh, that explains everything. No. But let me say this. Certain Republican politicians have made it popular within the Republican Party to target communities and to use them for their own political success. That includes the trans community, who they have painted, you know, as these awful, dangerous people, when in reality, what you have oftentimes are these young kids that are struggling with their identity. And also, unfortunately, we see more prone to things like suicide as well. So we have a responsibility to be truthful about who people are and to stand up and protect vulnerable people. You know, and they do that because if they can scare you and make you fearful and resentful about immigrants or about trans people, then they hope that you won't pay attention to the fact that they're taking away your Social Security. They're taking away your Medicare. They're taking away your Medicaid. They're slashing the Department of Education. If you will support them on things like that, because they try to paint that to be all that matters in the world, is demonizing these folks. If you will buy into that, then they can forget about doing anything to help you on health care, making sure you have health care, making sure you have Social Security, making sure you have good schools, making sure you have Pell Grants so you can go to college, all of those things. Do not let them get away with it. Stand up to it. I think we're on this side, and then we'll come back around. And then somebody give me a time check, because I think we got to get out of here at 3:30. 3:10. Okay, we got 20 minutes. All right. Yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Congressman Castro. Real quickly, let me start off by saying your office did a wonderful job about 2 summers ago in coordinating a White House visit for both me and my wife when we visited DC for the first time. A very humbling and enlightening experience, especially for me, because I'm a U.S. history teacher. I actually taught one of your, thank you. I actually taught one of the members of your staff, and I won't embarrass them right now. I'm also a neighborhood association president. As a matter of fact, somebody very close to both you and your brother is actually a resident of Lever Park. And I will leave it at that. But one of the things I wanted to bring kind of to the table in a spirit of advocacy for blue-collar workers, for people that work 2 or 3 jobs, including myself. When I leave here, I'm going to head to my part-time jobs. Yet again, I'm a teacher. But all that being said, there is a proposal to eliminate taxes on Social Security, tips, and overtime. I'm understanding that this brings up the T word. However, I'm more concerned about how this would benefit blue-collar and low-income individuals, people that are struggling, people that are aspiring to do better. In addition to that, I know you kind of hinted at it, but maybe this is a different story. I know back in 2017, you voted against the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. However, those tax cuts that many in this room benefit from are expiring this year. Look, I can't speak to what millionaires and billionaires are supposed to take or don't take. That's none of my concern. My bigger concern is about my family, my friends, myself, my residents in my neighborhood that are struggling just to make ends meet. Can we count on your support for those tax cuts and those tax eliminations?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Yeah. Let me describe to you. I think you raise a good point that there are things that we should look at, you know, like cutting taxes on tips, for example, that are worthy of looking at, and I certainly will look at those things. But you can't, I don't want the majority party, I don't want the Republican Party to come forward with tax cuts that overwhelmingly benefit the wealthiest Americans and the wealthiest corporations, and then give crumbs to everybody else, right? So I absolutely will. I will look at what they're doing for the working class that you and I grew up around, right? But at the same time, remember, if you combine that in a bill that's cutting taxes, slashing taxes that were already slashed 6 or 7 years ago for the wealthiest, that means the government is going to be taking in less money, which makes it harder to eventually balance a budget. and harder to provide things like Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare, right? And Pell Grants and these other programs that so many other folks in this district rely on. So we'll take a close look at it and see what they put forward.
Yes, you're telling the truth.
Thank you. All right, I think we're going back over here. Mary, I know you please. Yeah, they're bringing the mic over here.
Thank you. Hi, my husband Jesus and my son Richard, we all wanted to make an effort to come because we care a lot about what is happening to the families. My husband served 32 years in the military, 2 wars, and now he is on hospice. We don't know this week, next week, or whatever, but he wanted to come because he cares what's happening to the veterans. But what is really hurting us in our family, and I'm sure in everybody else's, is how our minds are being manipulated, and the lies we are at war with the lies. And I don't know if at the government level there is a plan to do something about that, because a lot of good people are believing the lies. I shared with the group how this is Easter, it's led. And even way back, Jesus got crucified because the lies were told to the people, and they chose the criminal to make it instead of Jesus. We're doing that again at this time. And it gives me that we're good people, but why are we falling to all these lies and believing what is so obvious from January the 6th to everything else? Something is very wrong. And we don't realize that the first ones we're hurting is our own family. Our own grandma that can't get her medicine. Our own families are the ones that we're hurting. When we vote a certain way, we're hurting our families. We're hurting our daughters whose rights are gone. We're hurting our veterans that whatever is going to happen. We're being, I don't know how many nursing homes that most of them are in Medicaid or receiving Medicaid, and what are they going to do? It hurts what we're doing to each other, and sometimes I think that the ones that need to be speaking to each other more is us. It's us, because we have to inform each other. Well, what would Jesus do? If you're confused about the answer in that, what would Jesus do if you're a person of faith? The answer will come. Or how will it affect your own child that is handicapped? And we have to, how is it going? If you don't care about my family, that's okay. In time, you'll grow. But if you care about yours, and if you care about yours, others are going to benefit. So we've got to talk to each other. So
Thank you, Mary. Absolutely. Yeah. Mary was, when I was serving the state legislature, Mary was very helpful, and Jesse was very helpful. They helped me lead an effort to get more time for grandparents to get custody of grandkids if the parents had lost custody for some reason. Whether it might be substance abuse or child abuse or whatever the reason might be, a lot of those kids, they were going to strangers rather than going to grandparents and other relatives. And so we have a lot of grandparents now in San Antonio who are raising their grandkids. Not just grandparents, but other extended relatives who are raising kids that are not their own, but they stepped into the parental role. So we got more time for grandparents and relatives to petition the courts to get those kids and get custody of those kids if their parents no longer have custody. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Jesse. Yeah, I don't see who's got the mic, but where's my staff? Who's got the mic? All right, Tiago. Here, why don't you go to this front row here, the second row here.
Thank you. My name is George. I enlisted in the Naval Reserve in 1964, when I was a senior at Jefferson High School. I turned that into a 22-and-a-half-year career as a cryptologic technician. Retired as a CW04. I worked at NSA. I worked at GCHQ. The guy that sat next to me in the GCHQ flew Hurricanes and Spitfires during the Battle of Britain. I worked at the theater everywhere. I'm a Vietnam veteran. And I'm a retired United Methodist preacher. I was the pastor at Evelyn, Salvador, and Jefferson United Methodist Church when I stopped in 2019. Okay. I'm very concerned about the stopping of Five Eyes sharing. I'm very concerned that Loudmouth in the White House will blind something that he shouldn't be doing. I'm incredibly concerned that Elon Musk and his know-nothings are getting into databases, especially in sensitive compartment information facilities, that could harm this country irreparably, and the damage with between us and our allies. I have friends in the Philippines. I have friends in England. I have friends in Spain. You know, they didn't work with me. They were just friends. But some of those are 60 years. I am furious that our allies can no longer trust us. I'm asking you specifically to work as best you can to stop this foolishness that man is trying to do to undermine the security of this country that will affect everybody sitting here if it's not right.
Thank you for your service, my fellow Mustangs. I have, for the last 9 years, I have served on the Intelligence Committee, for the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence in the House of Representatives, and then my other committee was the Foreign Affairs Committee, which I've served on since I got there in January of 2013. And that's why I made the point that the world is turning against us because of what Donald Trump is doing. But more specifically, for those of you, talk about intelligence here for a second, obviously not the classified part, but just a comment on intelligence. When he describes the Five Eye partners, we have very select partners around the world who we trust, that we share nations, that we share intelligence with, so that we are safer and they are safer. So there was an article just yesterday, I believe, about countries, some in the Five Eyes and some not, that are now questioning whether they should share intelligence with the United States because President Trump is growing so close to Vladimir Putin. And so I share your concern, and we've worked, you'll forgive me if you know I can't talk about all of it here, but we're working on the Intelligence Committee, Democrats, to push back against what DOJ is doing. They've also recklessly tried to fire FBI agents, CIA agents, people in the 18 intelligence agencies for this country, and it's endangering the national security of our nation. It's really endangering the national security for all of us, and it's making the world not trust us.
And our democracy.
That's right, it's endangering our democracy. That's absolutely right. How a president would side with an autocrat, with a dictator like Vladimir Putin over a democracy like Ukraine is unbelievable that you would see that from an American leader, but that's where we are. And so you have my commitment that in that skiff, when we meet every week on the Intelligence Committee in classified setting, I have been, but I will continue to stand up for what we talk about. Another thing is, I also want to say this while we're at it. Donald Trump talked a lot about credentials and DEI and people being unqualified and so forth. He's put in place the most unqualified cabinet in American history. And more than that, sadly for them, some of whom I've met over the years and even worked with a few of them, they have no power. Elon Musk has the power. Elon Musk is telling them what to do. They don't, you know, I look at some of these secretaries, cabinet members, and they're there, and there's decisions that are made that leak out into the press, and they don't even know the decisions have been made. They didn't even get asked, right? Yeah, how do you describe a government like that, right? How do you describe a government like that?
All right, before we go on to the next question about ending slide,
Okay. And we'll come back to it.
sorry, my name is Marcus Rivera, 18 years old, and I'll be attending St. Mary's University this fall. I have 3 questions and a comment I believe off. First off, because there is a freeze on federal grants and loans, will this affect future scholars who will be attending these universities starting this fall and throughout the next few years of his office time? Also, since English has just become the official language of the United States, which is arguably unconstitutional, also our First Amendment right, and since San Antonio has a lot of San Antonio speakers, will this really hinder or affect those people who primarily speak Spanish in the communities? And lastly, leaving out the comment, the president is not a religious man he claims himself to be, while his administration allows the discrimination of marginalized groups such as the LGBTQ based off of religious bias. We must not forget that the mouthpiece who sits in the Oval Office has an affair on his private wife with a porn star.
Man, where do I start here? Well, first, on the federal grants and loans and so forth, you know, we want to make sure, many of us, myself included, that we appropriate money for all of the things that have been helpful to students. You know, loans, grants, and so forth, so that people can afford to go to college. I was proud that President Biden made an effort to actually relieve the debt for students in incurring debt, right? Remember that there's a before, which is being able to afford to go to school. And actually, our community college system over the years here at UTSA have done a great job, and other universities, of trying to make it more affordable, right? Because there was a spike. My dad graduated from UT, I think, in around 1963. And how much was the tuition? Like $50 a semester or something? It was very inexpensive. That may have been a little bit higher than that, but it was very low. And so, no, we're going to fight to protect those things. You're right, I question the commitment of the president and others to continuing that. We're watching if they are trying to dismantle the Department of Education, right? If they dismantle that department, then what happens to all those programs? They're saying that they're going to either do a few things. Block grant that money to the state, but honestly, I don't trust Greg Abbott. Or they're going to divide up the responsibility for different programs to different agencies. So there's litigation going on over that. We'll try to block it legislatively in the Congress, but you know it's still moving. That's why your voice matters. On the English as official language, look, I mean, ours was a country where everybody for years and years and years, obviously, we're speaking English, right? Like, that's what we're generally conversing in every day. But we were a diverse nation. The fact that we've had people from all over the world who speak different languages move here has been a blessing for this country. It is what has helped us stand out. It is what has helped us be strong. You know, and for example, I'm co-chair and have been for many years of the U.S.-Japan Caucus. So I have helped build a strong relationship between members of the House of Representatives and members of the Japanese Diet. And that's their legislative branch. And there are a lot of great things that Japan does, a lot of admirable things. But one place where I think they get it wrong is that it's a country that doesn't allow for a lot of immigration. It basically, for years, has tended to keep people out. Now, we understand that a nation has to have border security, that you have to know who's coming in, that it's got to be safe. But the blessing of this country is that for generations, people from all over the world have wanted to come to the United States of America and bring their culture and bring their language. And I'll tell you, there's a scarier day in this country than a day when everybody wants to come here. That's a day when nobody wants to come here. Okay? And that's the day that Donald Trump is trying to bring about with the policies that he's pursuing. So we'll keep fighting on the education piece, and also, basically standing up to make sure that we speak up about how people from different communities matter and how they make a positive impact on this country. All right? Yes, we'll take care right here, and then we'll go over here.
Thank you so much. I echo what everybody has said, and for time's sake, I don't want to repeat it.
Sure.
Except for the first gentleman who clearly had an agenda. I echo everybody else.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's a free country. It's still a free country. So, my comment is a little outside of what has been said. My comment is, and thank you for representing us and our values. I'm very proud of calling you a congressman. But you cannot do it alone, and several people already said that. I would like more specific answers of how, other than voting, other than posting in social media for awareness, how can we get involved? Because this is a major situation. This is not even 8 years ago. I think everybody agrees. And how do we help? Who is organizing? Who is mobilizing? How do we get into action? How do we make good trouble? We're afraid. And I think if we're paying attention, and if our elected officials are paying attention, except for you and a handful of Democrats, we are kind of disappointed with the party. We are tired of playing nice. We are tired of playing nice. It doesn't have to be reckless, but it has to provide results. And we are not seeing results. We are seeing passivity. Outgreen, we saw outgreen last week. Where are our leaders? Where is our democracy? And what can I do for my country? I'm going to echo another famous, what can we do for our country outside of voting the right way? We organize!
Let me say this. Man, I don't think you need to ask me that question. I think that you need to look at what we did several years ago when there was a women's march that was hundreds of thousands of people in Washington and throughout the country, right? There was the groups like Indivisible and Grab Your Wallet and other groups that popped up and that were so powerful. There were people that were doing economic boycotts of companies that were funding, Donald Trump and others. So there was action that people were taking to make change. And you see that going on now. But I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. I know that it's not lost on me. It's not lost on me that there has been a lot of talk that Democrats in Congress need a stronger response, and you need to do this and that and so forth. I hear all of that. But let me tell you, I need a stronger response from you. Okay? I need a stronger response from you. Listen, y'all. Look. We need to get back out on the streets, okay? You need to show up and organize. You need to call everybody and also share your stories. I realize I have a vote, right? I represent us. I'm going to show up and make sure that I vote that is in a way that's consistent with who we are and what we stand for. But they also need to hear from you. They need to hear from you. You need to organize. You need to stand up. This is a group effort. It is an ensemble effort. There is no magic wand that any of us is going to wave and make Donald Trump go away. Okay? It's going to take everybody's voice and everybody's effort. That is where we are. This country elected Donald Trump. They elected Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, the people that elected Donald Trump, that includes some of our neighbors, some of our family members, right? Some of the people we are friends with, they put him into office, right? Maybe some of the folks that are here, that's fine. I respect, like I said, I respect people's opinions. I respect their positions. When I got into this role, I said that I would always stand up for what I believe, but I would also listen to people, even when we disagree. And I feel like I've done that. But I need you. I need y'all. All right? We will put more pressure over there, but we need everybody. You know what to do. Y'all know what to do. All right? We'll take one more, and I promise it to this gentleman here.
How you doing? My name is Kitty. Okay, I was telling my neighbors and been watching the news. Everybody was saying we watch it all on TV. I agree with you saying, and I must say this one thing. I didn't vote for Donald Trump, but he's in there. But I know one thing. Like Joe Biden said, it's not the red, white, and blue states. It's the United States. You see what he's doing. Everybody got to come together. It ain't no color thing, it ain't no religion thing. You see how you hurting everybody? We got to stand up. I'm here because I was telling people in the former complex, you walk around do nothing, but there's only one man I know who's calling people out to fight. That's why I'm here today, and I'm with you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, y'all. I want to say we come to the end of our time. Thank y'all so much. You make me proud. I'm proud to represent you. Proud to call San Antonio home. And we'll keep standing up and fighting back. All right? We'll see you soon. We'll see you soon.